now that we have a quorum and we have Darcy here, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. So calling the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, September 14th, 2020. It's 6:32 p.m. And we'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, Joe? All right, I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. We have a few board and committee openings. Opening on the Council on Aging, the Hamilton Historic District Commission. We have, I think, 2 openings. The Open Space and Recreation Committee, we have a few openings as well. And now we'll do our Selectmen reports. We'll start with Rosie, if you have anything to add tonight.
Let's see. Well, I'm sure. Gosh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Just got off of a Zoom call. The first thing I wanted to say was that I participated last week in the town flu clinic, and it was really a fun clinic. I helped to vaccinate, I think there are about 80 town personnel and school department employees who came by. So that was really nice to meet a lot of those people. It was a very worthwhile clinic. The second thing is the big topic is the Town Hall Building Committee, and we were working on finishing up all of the construction documents, and we were fine tuning that. So we'll finish that this week again, and hopefully get the project out to let contractors know that it's out there. I don't know the exact term that we should use for that. So those are the 2 big things. I think that's all for me tonight, Sean.
Okay, thanks, Rosie. Darcy, you want to go next?
Yes, I'm going to parrot Rosie about the Town Hall Building Committee that we went to. I was there too. I also know there's a Board of Health meeting going on at 7 tonight, and I'm the liaison. Obviously, I won't be there, but I know that I've been monitoring all the things that are happening, and everything's so fluid day to day. We just kind of have to go with the flow. So I am keeping an eye on that. And I know there's something else. Can
Yeah,
you
if you remember, we'll just circle back to you if you remember the shout out.
Thank
All
you.
right, Bill, how about you next?
I will parrot Darcy, but yeah, the Board of Health is meeting tonight because as a school committee update, the school opened today, so that's great news. So everybody was in full remote session today, and I think it was a positive day for everybody. Did a really good job setting it up with 1-to-1 ratio for middle school and high school for the laptops, and I think 1 per family for the elementary schools. So it seemed to go well today. Their plan is to go back to hybrid on October 2nd. So the Board of Health is meeting today at 7. Unfortunately, a busy town, so we have 2 meetings the same night. But they're going to talk about what that means, what that pivot means, and what the markers are going to be looking for, and how they're going to manage that. So that's sort of the school committee update. And then on the planning board, there's not much on their plate right now. What they are working on, according to Brian Stein, is basically their next agenda is to come up with something to replace our OSFPD bylaw, a more sort of flexible zoning bylaw. They're looking at Wenham's bylaw. They're looking through similar towns, similar areas to sort of come up with a so this part of that whole thing we talked about, the phase 2, sort of update our bylaws to make them more current with what our town really needs. So between planning board and school committee, that's my updates for today. Any questions?
No, thanks, Bill. Jamie, do you have anything to add?
Just mainly there was an affordable housing trust meeting sometime in the last couple of weeks that I attended, and I guess the primary thing was that we are asking us CPC for $200,000 of CPA funds. So we'll see where that request goes, but That was the primary decision from last meeting.
All right. Thanks, Jamie. We had a CPC meeting to kind of Jamie's piggyback off of what he's saying with the Affordable Housing Trust. They put in a grant request for the 200,000, as Jamie said. And I believe we moved it forward to go to town meeting. So we've approved it before town meeting approval, I guess. So we said we can put it on the warrant. We also discussed the other application before us, which you had some information in your packets about the Old North Church steeple restoration, belfry, and clock improvements, I guess. They asked for, I think, $110,000 or $116,000. We had a pretty robust discussion about it, and we've decided to kind of have them come back. We're trying to, with the advice of KP Law, kind of carve out some of the cost of the steeple because it's seen as more of a religious part of it, and it might interfere with kind of the way the CPA grants go. So we charged them to come back with a more kind of a detailed estimate from the contractor that they've chosen, so that we can kind of take that bit out of the ask. We kind of went back and forth on what to give them as a percentage, but we didn't feel comfortable without a breakdown of the cost, so that we could kind of carve out that bit of the steeple and the spires and just be able to restore the clock and the belfry, which would go into historic preservation. We all kind of agreed that we really would like to help the project because we see the significance in the history of Hamilton. It was our town hall for many years. And when we split from Ipswich and we had Manasseh Cutler leave from there to start the westward expansion of the U.S., there's just a ton of U.S. history there that's pretty profound from that church. So we want to do what we can to help it, but we didn't want to mess with the funding and goof up, I guess. So we need a little bit more time to think about that. Also, we had a Board of Selectmen meeting kind of workshop on Saturday at the Patton Homestead. And we mostly talked about town manager goals, but we also talked kind of board goals. We didn't get through everything. It was a very quick 3 hours, I guess, if you can say that. I think we had a lot of good engaged conversation about kind of what we see as a vision for the town and what we'd like to go for, and helping Joe help us accomplish those goals. And that's all kind of to be determined in the next meeting. We'll talk about those kind of highlights of that meeting and let everybody in on what it is. And you can also watch it probably on YouTube or Cam and catch the taping of it until it cuts out when Joe's battery died on his computer. But we ended the meeting right after that, so you didn't miss much when the meeting ended. And then Joe, you want to give us some highlights from your town manager report?
Yeah, I'm gonna be a little brief. I'm gonna tell you a couple of things that are actually in the report, and then a couple of things that came up or finalized after I submitted the report to you, and I will add them to the report and put it when it gets put online. The big news, I guess, is from town finances. The town did receive an email notification from the Department of Revenue that our free cash balance has been certified at $3.343 million. That's good news. We'll get the certification letter in the mail coming up in the next couple of weeks. But you really wanted to give credit to all of our department heads and our finance director. As you know, when we entered the pandemic at the end of last year, we were a little concerned about revenues. And so we sought to identify spending that we could put off or not make in the fiscal year. We got about $500,000 or so of spending that we put off and didn't do. Those are projects and programs that didn't take place, but because of the lockdown, we thought we could get by with that. And at the same time, because the recession didn't hit our folks locally here in many quarters as severely as it did in other parts of the country, our collections on tax revenue stayed consistent. So that money that we were authorized to spend, we didn't spend, and it fell to the bottom line. That'll help us, I hope, in FY22, but it was a really good job by the department heads to identify savings in that then current fiscal year. Another item on our on the town manager report I'd like to highlight is the Hamilton Wenham Rotary Club's new program for helping seniors combat social isolation. they've introduced a program whereby they've pledged to provide 20 iPads to seniors in Hamilton and Wenham. The two Council on Agings are working to identify the folks in the two towns that need that, so that these folks can use the iPads to connect with their friends, family, to participate in online classes or ebooks or things like that, just to keep them from being so lonely while they're trying to stay safe during the pandemic. There's a picture in our town manager report, something I hope to be able to do more going forward. It shows the awarding of the first iPad to a local resident here, Miss Claudia Brown, and also included in that photo are members of the HW Rotary Club, the two Council on Aging directors, and two young men from the Hamilton Wenham High School. Let me get their names for you here. Carter Glovsky and I got their names. I got one name repeated here. Carter and Morgan are their first names, and they're going to be helping to train Ms. Brown on the use of her iPad, which I think is really really great for them to do. Close this down here. I also wanted to let you know that we've made progress on the voting clickers. We've had 3 successful. Well, we saw 3 quotes. We've got a low bidder. Part of it will be to demo the new voting clickers at the upcoming special town meeting. And it will be using CARES Act funds, because it's been authorized by the state to use CARES Act funds to make that purchase. So there won't need to be any appropriation for it. And I also wanted to, and I told you on the Board of Selectmen on Saturday, but I forgot to put it in the town manager report. We have reconstituted the Gordon Conwell Seminary Task Force that works with me to kind of help open up the lines of communication with the seminary. And we're keeping Dave Smith and Dave Thompson, who had served in that role for the last 2 years, but we lost 3 members who moved on to other things. And I've replaced those 3 members with Jamie Knudsen, who's good enough to take up 2 spaces, because he's a Board of Selectmen and Affordable Housing Trust, and with Rick Mitchell, who will now represent the planning board on that committee. So that's all I have. I'll add those items to the town manager report, and we'll have it posted online tomorrow.
Great, thanks, Joe. I just have just a few brief things to add to that. I just remembered while you were talking there. I told, I think, the board on Saturday, but just get an update for the general public today. Our special act, or our home rule petition for 550 Highland. I heard from Brad Hill, it's on the governor's desk now, just waiting a signature. So that's good news that that's kind of coming to fruition and closure. Also, our Amoresco, the deed and stuff, so they can get insurance, is in the final stages of land court. Hopefully that will move sometime soon. We've kind of put a call in to kind of hopefully move that along, and then we can get that online and start getting some cheaper energy for the town and get a little buyback from the energy buyback from the state. And also, I talked to Brad. I had some questions kind of about school funding. And the main thing I talked to him about, and he's going to get back to me about it, is if we have a lot of kids getting pulled out of our school system for homeschooling, their numbers won't be counted when they do the census in October, and we'll lose some funding. So I'm going to try to work with him to see what we could do at the state level so that our numbers from the previous year are counted, and not for this year when we lose enrollment for people pulling out for homeschool, so we don't lose any funding. So that's kind of to be determined. I got to talk to him more about it, but just thought I'd let you know I'm working with that. Let's move on to we have some time for public comment that I almost skipped over. I apologize, but if anybody has anything to add that's not already on the agenda, feel free to speak up now and I'll acknowledge you. All right. Since nobody spoke up, we'll move on to the consent agenda. On our consent agenda today, we have approving the minutes of July 27th, 2020, the BOS meeting, approve committee reappointments and the list of committees and terms. And then the last item, approve use of perpetual care funds for cemetery lawn maintenance. Anybody want to give a second on that?
Second.
Okay, and just most of you saw in your packets for the perpetual care use, we spoke earlier about reseeding the area that was eaten by grubs and using some GrubX or whatever else. I think the total, and Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was just under 10,000 for that
Yep.
9,600 or something.
Yep.
And we have about 70,000 in interest, which we can spend from, I think, almost 300,000 in the fund for the cemetery maintenance and care fund. So if people are ready, or if there's any more discussion about that, I'll take a roll call vote. I'll start with Bill.
I think he's on mute.
William Olson, aye.
All right. Thanks, Darcy. Darcy?
Darcy Dale, aye.
Rosie?
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Thanks, Rosie. Jamie?
Jamie Knutson, aye.
Myself, Sean Farrell, aye. All right, the motion passes. And then on the agenda, we have appointment of Kenneth. We all know him as Kirby. Brand is the acting fire chief. I see Ray's on the call here. Ray or Joe, do you guys want to speak to this before I do?
Let's let the chief speak to it real quick. Yeah.
As you guys, well, most of you know, I don't know that I'm going to be going out having hip replacement surgery, and will be out for approximately 3 months. And I went to Joe and asked him to talk to Sean about appointing Kirby as acting fire chief. This isn't, a everyday occurrence where someone like myself goes out for 3 months. Normally when it's just a couple of days here and there or a week's vacation, no big deal. But to properly do the job, he has to be appointed, and I have to give him delegation of authority through the fire marshal's office, so he can do the day-to-day operations and make the decisions that he needs. I recommend to run the town properly that you guys vote to put him in as acting fire chief until I come back from a surgery and rehab.
So I'd echo the chief's the chief's recommendation. Kirby's been obviously a firefighter for the town for a very, very long time. He's currently the second in the department. He's been very valuable to us, even when Ray has been out for vacations and the like. Kirby's great. He's respected by the men and women in the department, and I think that it makes a lot of sense to have him appointed as the interim fire chief while Ray's recovering.
And I'm assuming, Kirby, you're okay with this.
Ray runs a great ship, and as you know, I'm going to retire when he's back. The town, Ray hanging.
I kind of echo what Joe and Chief said. I've known Kirby for a bit of time now, and it's just nothing but good stuff with Kirby. He's always got a smile on his face and a positive attitude. And things like that always spread through departments. So I really appreciate that. And he's been doing it for a lot of years. So a lot of people trust his judgment. And I think it'll be a good fit. And, I think the timing and everything is just perfect. It's kind of bittersweet because, Kirby gets to be our chief for a while, but at the same time he's retiring, and we'll miss him dearly. So if anybody wants to make a motion to approve appointing Kirby Brand as our acting chief while our current chief Ray is out on leave, I'll take a motion.
Sure, I'll make a motion. Oh, I'm sorry, Darcy. I'll second.
So Darcy, did you say the motion?
I said so moved to read. Okay, so perfect. It would be what you said.
Okay, thank you. And Rosie seconded, so we'll take a roll call vote. We'll start with Jamie since he's to my screen on the right.
Jamie Knutson, aye.
Rosie?
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill?
William Olson, aye.
And Darcy?
I have a special case here where I have a member of the family on the fire department, and I have been advised by the state to abstain. I would love to vote for him, and I would, but because of that, I have to stand down at this time.
All right, well, thank you for that. And I overwhelmingly approve.
Yes.
And we wish you all the luck, Kirby. We'll know you do a great job for 3 months, and hopefully everything will be quiet for you.
We'll keep everything on the best care we can, and thank you for your confidence, and I will keep you informed as to how Jeanette's recovery comes along. We need to do the best. He's got a tough road ahead of him.
And Kirby, we get department head meeting tomorrow at 10, so Ray can give you the Zoom info on that.
Okay.
You're right at it.
Right into it, man. Jump in.
I don't think I start till Wednesday.
Oh, I can handle it if you don't want to, Kirby. I mean, it's totally fine.
All right.
Thank you guys very much
Thank you,
for
everybody.
doing that.
Good luck, Ray.
Good luck, Ray.
Yeah,
Thanks, Kirby.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Take care. All right, up next, we have a special election date for Thursday, December 3rd, 2020. I'll entertain a motion.
What?
Anybody want to make a motion to approve the special election date for Thursday, December 3rd, 2020?
Sure. I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve a special election date of Thursday, December 3rd, 2020, to vote on the outcome of the special town meeting warrant article. Is that sufficient?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second?
All right, Darcy seconded. Roll call vote. We'll start with Jamie.
Amy Knutson, aye.
Rosie,
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill,
William Olson, aye.
and Darcy.
Darcy Dale, aye.
And then myself, Sean Farrell, aye. Thank you, everyone. And then up next, we have appointment of Bruce Gingrich to the Zoning Board of Appeals. You should have in your packet all of, I believe it's Hunter and MJ's and Bruce's applications. Hopefully you've looked them all over. So I'll entertain a motion. If that people want to ask questions and have discussion, we'll do it after the motion's been seconded.
Okay, I will. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so moved. It's a lot.
All right. A second from anybody?
Second.
All right. And then any discussion about our candidates tonight, or maybe would we like Bruce to introduce himself to the board maybe and tell us a little bit about himself? If you don't
Please,
mind,
Yes.
that would be great.
Okay, I'm Bruce Gingrich. I've been living in town since 2006. Worked in town 5 years before that with Allsop Design. So I've done a lot of construction and design work over the years. Went to Boston Architectural Center, and so I've been on the board for I don't even know how long now, 4 years maybe, as an alternate. And I usually go when I can just to hear what's going on and kind of keep a pulse on things. So I enjoy doing it. I'll miss Bill, but the time's come. he's been trying to get off for a while, so I'm looking forward to it.
any questions for Bruce, or?
Sure. I have a question. So it looks like you have some good experience, architecture and understanding plans and things like that, which is really helpful. But certainly since you will be losing Bill, who's definitely a mainstay of the ZBA, and he also is an attorney, so has his finger on the laws that will be implicated. So tell me, Bruce, how you would plan to, who would you touch base with? Do you have a plan for the ZBA to get some legal counsel? Do you have, I guess that's my question. How would you figure things out legally if you folks are unable to figure it out?
Well, what we've done in the past, I mean, obviously Bill's been involved, and
Right.
So he's offered to be available if something came up and we need help. But I know we've gone to the town lawyer for several things that have happened in the past that were a stretch of the zoning bylaws. So probably do that. And I guess that'd be my route. go from there. I mean, I don't have a lawyer that I know of that besides Bill, I've used him on my own personal stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, so I think the reason I'm asking this is, I mean, certainly there have been some tricky situations that have gone on in town that maybe do stretch the law, and it has and probably will continue to raise legal questions. And so I just want to be sure that you as a prominent member of the ZBA would have a plan to really check on the legality of something before you grant or deny something. So that's my big question for you.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly do the best I can to find out if anything seems to be way off. I mean, I understand the zoning bylaws pretty well, so if something's really odd, I'll consult with my other board members and we'll come up with a plan together, I'm sure.
Super. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Anybody else? I mean, I think, Bruce is saying he's been an alternate for 4 years. It's kind of a bridesmaid, never a bride, and now it's his turn, right? So we appreciate you, Bruce, throwing your hat kind of, it's already in the ring, but even more into the ring for us. And, there's some big shoes to fill with Bill stepping off the board. He's kind of been, as I think Rosie or Darcy said, a pillar of that board for a long time. And we do appreciate you and all the other volunteers that always step up to kind of fill in the spots when other people step off of the board. So for me, it's a go. I don't really have any questions for you, but if anybody else does, if not, I'll go ahead and call the vote. No. Okay. So we've had a motion. It's been seconded. I'll start with Jamie.
Jamie Knutson, aye.
Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill.
William Olson, aye.
Darcy.
Darcy Dale, aye.
And myself, Sean Farrell, aye. Thank you, Bruce. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And up next, we have another appointment for Hunter Carroll to the Affordable Housing Trust. So just like before, I'll entertain a motion in a second, and then we can ask some questions and go from there.
I make a motion that we discuss Hunter Carroll's Affordable Housing Trust application.
I think after we can motion to appoint him, and then we can, and if the motion doesn't, yeah, sorry.
That's okay. We'll make the motion, and if you don't feel comfortable with it, Darcy, somebody else can do it. It doesn't matter.
Okay, I don't have my agenda in front of me.
I got it right here.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we appoint Hunter Carroll to the Affordable Housing Trust.
I'll second that.
All right. Discussion and questions, and maybe we'll do kind of what we did with Bruce and Hunter. If you just want to introduce yourself and give us a minute or so of an overview of what you're going to do.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. I have a varied background. I've worked in insurance for many years now. I was a claims adjuster, supervisor in claims for electric insurance company down the road a few years ago, and reviewed far too many construction estimates for my liking. But I had a lot of experience with that. I'm also an MBA candidate at Endicott College and CPCU, which for those without the insurance background, that's almost like a master's in insurance. So I do have a lot of experience with insurance, risk management, a lot of experience with just reviewing financial statements as well. I'm very excited to report that I'm starting a franchise in the next year for Goosehead Insurance Agency. I'm going to kind of jump into franchise ownership and give that a try, and I'm very excited about the opportunities with that. I have worked as well in the nonprofit sector, pursuing policies of really just reconciliation in the United States. So I'm very excited for the opportunity, and I'm very eager to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, Hunter. Any questions for Hunter?
Yes. Are you a sole proprietor at this point?
I'm currently setting up an LLC. So the contract I have right now is just with me, but that contract will be updated this week. We're actually planning to file the LLC So, another month from now, we should have the LLC up and running.
Okay. And where is your place of business?
So right now we are still searching for the location. So we just signed the contract. My plan and consultation with my wife, we're trying to get through the next few months of schooling. We have 2 young kids, 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. So we're trying to navigate the pandemic and schooling them at home the best we can. And then in 2021, we jump into really the full-time work of franchise ownership.
Okay. I was wondering, I understand that you've been in town 18 months.
I've been in Hamilton, moved here in May.
I think that's what you wrote on your application was about 18 months.
Okay, May 2018.
Okay.
Moved to Hamilton. I have been in the North Shore area for probably about 12 years now, but Hamilton for a little over 2 years now.
I have a bit of a problem with having students, which tend to be transient populations, filling boards and committees on our town. So I don't think we've ever done that before. I don't think Wenham's ever done that before. And I don't think that's a good policy. Are you looking for affordable housing for yourself or friends or family or any affiliated people that you?
No, I've owned a house and sold a house in Beverly, so I have ownership experience in housing. I've been a landlord before, so right now my wife and I do live at Gordon Conwell here in Hamilton because my wife is a part-time student, but my wife is from this area. We've lived in this area I've been in this area 12 years. My wife's been here for her entire life, so we do consider this to be our home area. I have no plans or interest in trying to connect people to affordable housing that I know personally.
I'm also concerned about and the appearance of a conflict of interest because where Gordon is the largest nonprofit corporation in this town and where you depend upon them for housing and education, it would be easy for someone to think that you would be doing their bidding. So Gordon's been a very, very powerful force in this town, and they've made a lot of promises over the years. So I know that people have been giving them the benefit of the doubt for many years. For example, they were supposed to give us money for schooling, and I was here when we did that in the 80s, early 80s. If we gave them permission to build married dorms, they were going to pay for all the students that went there. And they broke that promise. And then a few years later, they said, well, we want to build single dorms. And we went again and we said, well, we'll have to help us, contribute to pay for a well. Well, that didn't happen either. They broke that promise. And then, they were saying they were going to give $75,000, and next it was $35,000 a year, and now it's nothing a year. In the meantime, because they're a corporation, they were able to take advantage of the PPP program for millions and millions of dollars that are taxpayer funded. So I just don't have a lot of trust. And the last thing they did was they took out our water meter, and they were getting free treated water for years until it was found out maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and we reinstalled it. But these are not neighborly activities. These are not things that make a community stronger. So I'm really concerned that you might be doing their bidding if you get in a position of power. And I'm also concerned about having students from either the Gordon College in Wenham or in Hamilton's case, it would be the seminary, where some of these students leave town and they don't pay their excise taxes. So it's, I think a conflict of interest is a very real thing. What do you think?
I appreciate your concerns. I will say, while we do choose to live at Gordon, we are not dependent upon Gordon for housing. I have lived in many other places. I purchased a home. We choose to live here for really the neighbors and the fact that our kids have many friends here. So that's something we choose to be a part of. I have no affiliation with the Gordon Conwell administration, and I am very saddened to hear of the conflict that has existed. And I think it honestly, it angers me because I feel like Gordon Conwell should be a better Christian witness than that. And
well, we want to keep that out of this conversation because this is a secular, that's the other thing. This is a purely secular job, purely secular boards and committees. We have a bright line in our country, and you know that. So we will not be going down that route. So that's another concern of mine. I
would just like to say that, in terms of conversations with Conwell, I understand the appearance of conflict of interest, and I'm very happy to offer my thoughts on any subject matter as it comes up. But at the same time, I want to avoid any conflict of interest. And if there's a vote related to Conwell in the capacity, in my capacity on the trust, should I be appointed, I would certainly plan to recuse myself. Because I do not want to have any appearance of conflict of interest, and I do understand that that's very important to ensure that we're keeping those boundaries.
Well, we do have that fact pattern over the last 40 years, 38 to 40 years.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to target.
I'm not done yet. Are you aware of the recent issues that we have had with the Affordable Housing Trust?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of that. I apologize.
Are you aware of the issues that have affected the ability of the Affordable Housing Trust to meet their obligations in the last 2 Habitat for Humanity houses?
Not specifically.
Okay. Both houses went to Gordon families living at the campus, even though I know for a fact there were families from the local area who lived, worked, or had businesses in town. And I thought that would be a priority. So I'm seeing the Affordable Housing Trust is almost providing affordable housing for people who live at Gordon. And I've seen that, and it's happened in Wenham too. So I find that to be a problem. They were given occupancy permits without fulfilling the agreement, and we gave them over $300,000. And just recently, even though they've been living in these houses for several years now, it turns out they were not in perpetuity affordable, and they were also going to be willed or inherited by the children. And that's not what this town was all about. That's not what we agreed to when the town meeting voted to give that kind of money to the Affordable Housing Trust. So there is a lot of trust issues. There are a lot of trust issues, rather. So, and I think that's really all I wanted to say for now. I understand, though, you've got really nice reviews. People really like you. I know you're a nice person, but this isn't about people. It's about the town and what's best for the town.
Oh, of course. And if I can just say one more thing, I believe the role of government is to listen to all the interests of its citizens, of its residents. So if I were to be appointed to the trust, my priority is trying to scan the environment and figure out what is it that the residents of the town are looking for. I can come in with certain ideas and concepts, but I believe it's very important, if I'm going to be in a position, affiliated with the government, to be able to listen, to be able to make efforts to connect and to balance competing interests, and recognize that, this isn't, I'm not applying to be a part of the trust, because I'm trying to promote me. I'm really just see the, see the, there might be something I can offer. And, President Obama's, he wrote an op-ed a few months ago, just encouraging people to get involved in local government, and, recognizing that there's opportunities there. So that really, that was a thing he wrote in the spring. And that's really what inspired me to try to, join the local government and try to be a part of the conversations to bring about good, not just for one segment, but trying to create opportunities for everyone in the town.
I appreciate that, Hunter. I'll just add that, I think that with what Darcy said, there's kind of a storied past with the history of Gordon Conwell in the town and missed promises and et cetera. And I think being on the Affordable Housing Trust, it's also at times a pretty controversial board, and different decisions are made that many people don't like and many people do like. It's pretty polarizing at different times. And, from the recommendations I've got for you, it seems that people think you'd be a good fit and a level head. And I think everyone appreciates that kind of a demeanor. But just know that, we thank you for stepping up and putting your hat in the ring. But at the same time, we hope that you take the care to really make some educated decisions on what's best for the future of the town. And I think, from some of the things you've said tonight and from what other people have told me, you have that intention in mind, and that's what we need in that role. But I think it's also good to think about the things that Darcy said and have that kind of history, so that you're cautious and careful of those things that you do and say when you are on that board, and that when the board makes a decision, that it's a board decision, and that you go with whatever decision is made. And we hope that of all of our boards and committees.
Yeah, yes, I think I'll echo that. I think what I got out of this discussion was, I think Darcy had some very relevant and good points, and I thought more importantly is how you reacted to it, because you're going to be in a lot of situations where you're going to have people that don't like your opinion and might change your mind. I thought your responses were very thoughtful. You had a good demeanor, and I just gonna, when I asked you, I mean, you're I'm trusting you're not gonna like Darcy said, you're not connected to Gordon College other than you live there, right? So you're not gonna be right. So you're not doing their bidding. So as long as we have that commitment from you, I thought your answers were very thoughtful and appropriate. So thank you for listening to our concerns.
Right, and I would say, if you're appointed here in the next few minutes, that you do, when different discussions with Gordon come up, that you do, refer to the town manager or the chair of the board and ask, do I have a conflict here? All those kind of things that you're probably already thinking about, but just, make sure you follow through on all those things.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, thank you for bringing up those concerns, and that is something that I take to heart, and I will certainly, should I be appointed, make the effort to determine whether or not conflicts of interest do exist.
Jamie, did you want to say something?
Yeah. So, and I don't have too many questions, partly because Hunter's appeared before the Affordable Housing Trust twice now. This is the second time he's been in front of the Board of Selectmen. He's been grilled more than most people that I've seen grilled, including people on the Affordable Housing Trust who had some hard questions, some skepticism about it. And we all have in our packet, the letter that he was unanimously approved and with some glowing remarks. So I would, I'm afraid to scare people away by expecting them to not be getting their MBA, because if you're a student, you can't be on a board, right? Or because he's a tenant of a big employer or big company in our town, that somehow disqualifies him. So I think we need to be, and the questions are, fair questions. I'm but I want to make sure that we don't set our standards so high that we never get any applicants anymore for these volunteer positions. And and as well, like, absolutely, it's a controversial, can be a controversial board at times, and you do need to get familiar with certain with issues and things. But I don't necessarily think that the fact that you don't have all the answers ready right now are a reason for a negative vote against you. So anyway, Hunter and I are not friends at all. Just seen I've seen him in multiple I've just seen him in multiple interviews here, so I feel like we're friends. Anyway, so I think he answered a fair number of hard questions at the Affordable Housing Trust too, so I'm satisfied.
All right. Does anybody have anything else, or I can move?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
I'd like to just mention a couple of things. So the first thing is I read Hunter's cover letter, and the first thing that struck me is he's motivated by his personal sense of social equity. In fact, I'll read one sentence here. Considering recent racial injustice protests across the country, I consider housing policies as a cornerstone to correcting past injustices while also creating growing and vibrant communities in the future. So the thing that concerns me about his cover letter is that he has a personal social mission, which I believe everybody has the right to. What I'm concerned about is
trying to.
Hello.
They need to be muted.
I did. I muted them.
Thank you.
Okay, so my first concern is that Hunter really wrote that heartfelt letter, but he had no understanding or knowledge about the town goals and priorities. And Hunter, because he's been a student on the campus, he doesn't have a strong connection to the town itself or to the town goals. And so one of the things that we look at are qualifications and experience. Now, I happened to run into Hunter, met his children who are lovely children, and we talked about this a little bit, and I told him of my concerns. That the town needs people to be on to apply for their boards who are interested in the best interest of the town, and somebody's personal motivations and what you're going to advocate for sometimes aren't in line with what a town's needs are. And I think I've said this before, but Mother Teresa often said that one needs to attend to their own backyard first. So I feel that it would be a benefit to Hunter to become more involved in the town, learn about the goals and priorities, because justice for people is certainly based on different needs, different priorities, and to have taken up this cause. In fact, Hunter told me that he met this group just a few months ago when he became very enamored with this group who really helped to focus his housing goals. And I was a little concerned that somebody would be so influenced by a group, but yet not really have any true knowledge of our town, what's important to our town, what the needs of our town are. So I have concerns based upon his cover letter without having looked at the needs of the town. Now, I suspect since my discussion with Hunter and probably other people have encouraged him to get to know the town more, look at what the town's priorities and goals and needs are. And so I have concerns about Hunter's appointment. Not that I don't think he's a very nice person, but for the reasons I've stated, I have concerns.
All right. I'm going to go ahead, since everyone's kind of spoken, we've kind of grilled Hunter a bunch. I'm going to go ahead and call the vote, and just again say, Hunter, I really appreciate you throwing your hat in the ring and applying to volunteer for the Affordable Housing Trust. It's always difficult to kind of put your neck out there, and it's much appreciated. And for me, I think basic human rights are basic human rights wherever you are. And I appreciate you kind of standing up for something that you think is right and we need to improve in Hamilton. So I'll go ahead and, Bill, did you want to say something? Is your hand up or?
No, I can, I'll withhold my comment. I think everybody was fair to have their comment, so I will. I was brushing my forehead.
Oh. All right, so I'll go ahead and call the vote then. So Jamie?
Jamie Knudsen, aye.
Rosie?
Rosie Kennedy, nay.
Bill?
Olson, aye.
Darcy?
Darcy Dale, nay.
And myself, Sean Farrell, aye. So the motion passes. Welcome to the team, Hunter. We appreciate your commitment or future commitment.
Thank you very much. And I just want to reiterate again, those who've mentioned concerns, Darcy and Rosie, I appreciate you bringing those concerns up. And that is something that I will take to heart and make every effort I can to continue to learn more about this great town.
Thank you very much, Hunter.
Thank you.
And up next, we have another appointment, last but certainly not least, Mary Jane Brown to the Council on Aging. And so, MJ, if you just want to introduce yourself to the rest of the board and give us a little spiel, and then actually maybe I'll take a motion first to approve MJ's appointment to the Council on Aging if somebody wants to make it.
I'll move to approve.
All right, a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rosie. MJ, sorry about that. If you want to just introduce yourself to everybody and go for it.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself to those of you who don't know me.
Hi, MJ.
Hi, how are you, Darcy? And, let you know why I'm interested in joining this, this advisory board. Brian and I, my husband, have been in Hamilton since 1996. Feels like yesterday and 100 years ago at the same time. And our daughter Margaret graduated from the regional last 2 years ago, 2019, so 2 classes ago. And so we're here and we plan to stay here. And in my experience in recent years with my own aging parents and my aging father-in-law, and my experience interacting with the Seniors Center as a Meals on Wheels driver, I've really come to know it as both the Senior Center and the Council on Aging and the programs that Mary Beth has there. It's just a real gem of a resource in the town. And as I said, we don't have plans to go anywhere. We're in our mid-50s and with an eye to the future of what the Senior Center can be. We have an aging population in general, and we have the special needs of this pandemic, which create so many issues around social isolation and connectivity. And I don't think that's going anywhere in a hurry either. I would just like to help maximize the Council on Aging and the Senior Center in their mission to meet the changing needs of our senior population. And that might look like making sure we've got the right programming, the right funding, the right communication methods, all of course in an advisory capacity. But to create a center that has both strong participation from its current client cohort, but also that's part of well integrated into our larger community. I'm a big believer in intergenerational activities. Probably best example of that is the Civics Bee that I put together and was unfortunately derailed by COVID this year, but really trying to get different components, different age groups in the community together, and create, that sort of intergenerational sense of community, but also, a resource for people who are, as I said, clients of the senior center, but people who may be dealing with issues around their own aging or their parents' aging, or, Mary Beth has been a great resource for me. And I'm excited about the opportunity to help build on what she's done and what the board has done.
Thank you, MJ. And I'll just kind of kick it off that if you know MJ, she's done so much in this community in the time she's been here, really. I mean, she's underselling herself a bit, I think. But as I said before, I really appreciate you kind of stepping up and wanting to be more involved. You're always kind of involved in everything, it seems. But I think, if you're appointed tonight, I think I'm looking forward to all the kind of things you can do with the Council on Aging and helping that organization. So I'll keep it short. Anybody else want to say anything or ask her any questions?
MJ? Yes, I do. Hi, MJ. I like your ideas. And I wonder what you think about starting a drive for senior housing. What do you think of that?
I am less versed in the housing aspect of things. I know that in general, affordable housing and the ability for seniors, especially, who have lived a long time in this community, to afford to stay in this community continues to be a challenge. But specifically, what role the Council on Aging board could play in that, I'm uncertain.
Yeah, I'm not certain either. That's why I thought I'd ask you. But I think that's going to be a subject of interest.
I agree. I think you're probably right.
Thank you.
MJ, hi. It's really nice to have you here. Thank you so much for coming. I certainly as well have a strong interest and commitment to finding a way to make some senior housing in Hamilton. I think that our seniors deserve it, and it's been stated as a goal and a priority for Hamilton. So that definitely is my interest. So one thing that I wanted to talk about, just get your opinion about this, is that one of the problems that and that has been lurking around for some time is the inability to gather a large number of our senior citizens to become involved. And I know that recently there's been a hire where there's a person who's doing some outreach into the community. So I'm wondering if you feel that's something that the board could help with, to come up with ideas how to really reach maybe isolated seniors who really could use the help of the COA a lot more than they're aware of.
Absolutely. One thing that I've been talking to Sherry Leonard about is the opportunity to be a presence, an occasional to regular presence in the senior center, to talk to the people who are already using it about what it is that that they would like to see enhanced, changed, more of, less of, etc. And then finding ways to make that more appealing in the larger population of seniors. I know it can be difficult to reach them. I have a strong background in online marketing, and I know that it just isn't where a significant portion of our current senior population is. It will be. I mean, those of us who are my age certainly are going to be reachable that way. And I think part of getting at some of the seniors, the ones who are on their own without adult children in town, don't quite fit this model. But the ones who do have adult children around, we can, I think, more effectively than we are, communicate with the families, the adult children of seniors in the community, to help drive that kind of awareness. I think outreach is critical. I know we do a print newsletter. Why is that not driving more people in? Can we get an answer to that question? Yeah,
Sounds like it's on your mind too.
it is on my mind.
Right,
We have tried a
right.
number of times, not to talk about the League of Women Voters again, but we've talked a number of times about trying to do sort of combined activities, whether it's the community house and the senior center with the league, you know, a field trip that might have more broad appeal if it has multiple organizations behind it. And then the more we can leverage each other's communication channels, I think the better all of our civic organizations will be.
Right. I worked with the Interact group at the high school a few years ago, trying to engage high school kids to do some volunteer work with some of the seniors. And we certainly had a few takers, but it's people, I wish I could understand the sort of self-imposed isolation that some of the seniors engage in, and because I think that the town COA has so many wonderful services that could help them, and we certainly want to help them. So I just was interested in your perspective about that. And you also, just one other quick question, you had said that you have been involved with the COA before. You delivered Meals on Wheels. Is that what you did? Yeah.
Yep, I delivered Meals on Wheels for, I want to say, the better part of 2 years, once a week. And I shared the round. Actually, I shared it with Jen Flynn, who has since gone on to work part-time at the Wenham Council on Aging and now part-time with the Ipswich Council on Aging, and would very much love, you know, sort of a regional cooperation. So I'm kind of excited about ideas that she has too. But I very much enjoyed the round and getting to know. It took me forever, and I sometimes had to reroute because I knew there were certain seniors who I would end up talking with for quite a while, and I would make sure to serve them last so that nobody else was waiting. But I really enjoyed it, and then I regretted that I had to give it up. It just didn't fit into my schedule anymore.
Well, it certainly sounds like you have a lot of interest in and experience with seniors, and have a lot of good ideas about how to enhance services. So thank you very much. I appreciate your efforts to help the seniors.
Thanks.
Bill or Jamie, anything to add? Otherwise, I can call the vote.
No, great, just great things to listen to here. So appreciate you stepping up.
Thank you.
Yeah, MJ is definitely, she knows the community and serves others, and so it's all good.
Yep.
Thumbs up in Jamie's book. All right. All right, so I'll call the vote. We'll start with Jamie.
Jamie Knutson, aye.
Rosie?
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill?
William Olson, aye.
Darcy?
Darcy Dale, aye.
And myself, Sean Farrell, aye. Welcome to the Council on Aging, MJ.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, up next on the agenda, we have a water abatement for 33 Woodbury Street. And I believe it's about a $300 abatement. And Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and it was a leaky all-season faucet to their barn or something like that they didn't notice. Is that?
It was a leaky faucet in a barn. Let me find it here in the packet, and then I'll try to pull it up for you to all see real quick. But yeah, I think you're a little off in the fine on how much is being abated. I think the
maybe it's 150 was abate. I'm getting my numbers a little bit confused.
The abatement amount is
150.
Yeah, the abatement amount is 150.92. So
and they have receipts from their plumbers and stuff on there, I think, right, as well.
yes, they completed the application and showed that the work had been completed, and the DPW director has shown that has read the meter since and seen that the water usage has gone back to its normal its normal amount. So the high bill was $455. The abatement amount is $150. We're leaving a revised bill of $304 if this is approved.
That was the 300 that I remembered.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion and then a second, and then we can have any discussion if we need it.
Sure, I'll make a motion that we approve the water abatement for Elizabeth Cloutman at 33 Woodbury Street, Hamilton, in the amount of $150.92.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? It seems fairly straightforward. I mean, we've done
Almost set.
a bunch of these in the past, so I'll go ahead and call the vote. Jamie?
Jamie Knutson, aye.
Rosie?
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill?
William Olson, aye.
I already see with your hand up there. Darcy?
You keep changing the order. You're trying to keep us on our toes.
Well, then my screen keeps changing. Darcy, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Darcy Dale, aye.
And myself, Sean Farrell, aye. All right.
I just replaced all the toilets in my house to avoid this abatement issue in the future. So they all were old and leaking. They've all been replaced. So I will not have any abatement from my
Might
end.
save some money.
All right. Up next, we have sale of a cemetery lot to a former resident and vote. And that was in your packets as well. And I believe this is Marcy's application, right, Joe?
Yeah, the Rickers have asked, obviously, I think everybody knows the Rickers from their time here. They didn't submit a formal letter. Oftentimes you'll get a formal letter, but they did submit it in writing via email to Sean. That is, we have no policy that says an email isn't acceptable. So you have a request from a longtime resident who has recently moved away, but would like to be considered to be able to bury here when they pass. Hopefully not for many, many years.
Yeah, she said she has no immediate plans. So
She wants to spend her money first.
yes, that's what she told me. So I'll entertain a motion if somebody wants to make it, and then a second, and we can discuss if we need to.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Second.
All right, Rosie seconded, beat you to it, Bill. And then any discussion?
I would
Yeah.
imagine that she's got lots of family from the Ricker side for probably, I don't know, decades and decades. So it would just make sense that they'd want to be with their own tribe in the
Right.
end,
Right.
you know?
All right, so
Yes.
go ahead and call the vote. We'll start with Jamie.
Jamie Knutson, aye.
Rosie?
Rosie Kennedy, an enthusiastic aye.
Bill?
William Olson, aye.
Darcy?
Darcy Dale, aye.
And myself, Sean Farrell, aye. Thank you, everybody. And then up next, we have, excuse me, amend the policy on committee appointments. I'm going to call it a first reading, and we can finalize it next meeting. But Rosie had, excuse me, brought by kind of a hard copy for me, and that should be in your packets with the highlighted changes that she had put in the. It's in the minutes actually from a previous meeting, and was it October or something like that?
Yeah, last year. But on this copy, Sean, the very minor edit that I made, which was based upon the minutes, was not added to this. So is this what we're doing now? Just amending the policy?
Yeah, we're just amending
Okay.
that language that you
Okay.
had shown me, and I think in the minutes, I think it does state too that you had said, I think for Joe to do it after we had voted on it, and maybe Joe, you can kind of confirm it. I don't know if we can call it a first reading, or we can even vote on the language change tonight because we've kind of already done it. I
Yeah,
don't know what your thoughts are.
the minutes from that meeting basically said that that Darcy would, the Rosie would provide language to us, and I thought we had done that. I had made a change based on what I had seen there. That Rosie's right. The copy of minutes that's in your packet is actually from not from the meeting where the amendment was made. If somebody could tell me what the amendment was, I'll transfer that into the policy, and we'll give you that all the next week for another vote on it.
Rosie,
Okay.
do you happen to have it? I don't
Well-
have it in front of me, but I could probably find it in a second if you
Yeah,
want.
yeah. So it's easy, just on appointments, section 3, on the vote. The language as it stands says, following such consultation, the Board of Selectmen shall select one or more candidates for reappointment at an open meeting called for this purpose. And I believe that the language should be under 3 appointments, a vote Following such consultation, the Board of Selectmen shall vote to select one or more candidates. So we're not saying we're going to select them, we're saying we're going to vote on their appointments.
Right.
That's all. That was the only clarification that I had. I think
So we're adding one
it's a
word in
little
there.
awkward. Yeah, it's just a little awkward the way it is.
So I have a couple questions, thoughts on that. If
Go for it.
is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the minutes of that meeting, sorry, it says, that the vote will happen within 2 meetings, right? I've got it here. I'm just having trouble finding it.
No, I think you're right, Jamie.
Right? That language, I didn't see it in the actual policy. I don't know if I missed it.
It is.
Oh.
If you just follow the sentence that I made, section 3 appointments,
Oh, yeah.
vote.
All right. You're right. Gotcha. Okay. All right. So, all right. So I guess the other question, and maybe it's sort of been raised by kind of Hunter and his having to, go, to 2 different meetings, 2 different times or whatever, is so under 2B, right, where we're asking for board and committee recommendations, shouldn't there be some sort of time constraint on that as well? Like, because there's a nice little timeline, requiring what the Board of Selectmen to do something, but there's nothing that says what the timing is that the board chair or the committees need to make their recommendation. Anyway, that was.
Yeah, because we've asked, right, for a recommendation from the chairs. That's why we've kind of had some of these holdups, because they weren't submitted before it came to us, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry.
If you follow the timeline of how the vacancy gets created, the notice, the town manager forwards applications to the Board of Selectmen, and then the Board of Selectmen has to vote in a certain amount of time. It's like, pretty linear, but there's not anything that's that linear on what the board and committees need to do.
Yeah, I think that our goal was that it was happening between the 30 days and the 60 days later, but we didn't actually say it. So that's what we had talked about, that sort of there's a 60-day period to sort of vet their candidates.
Yeah, although technically under the policy, the way it reads is the town manager theoretically could wait 60 days even before he sends it to the committee or I don't know.
What do you have a suggestion, Jamie? I know you're kind of trying to puzzle it out a little bit, but do you have an idea on either change in language or something to improve it? I mean, we can call this a first reading tonight, and you can think about it and get back to us. I don't want to put any pressure on anybody to vote on it tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I agree. It's a little awkward. I think we could certainly tighten up the language. I agree with you, Jamie. And so let's take the time to do it.
Yeah, I think rather than try to dictate here.
No, I think that's fine. So Jamie, if you want to take it and like redline it and then send it to all of us to look at, or send it to Joe to distribute to us. And then
that would be but please send it to me to let me distribute it to the board, or send it to John to let him distribute to the board. Having it circulate amongst you would be a violation of open meeting law. So
as a recommendation, I think that it's not a bad idea. I mean, we have all this stuff worded out, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a little chart at the bottom, like this is the date. It's 30 days for this, 30 days. Like we should actually just do a little chart at the bottom. So I think it'd be much cleaner, because right now, if you can read all this stuff, I agree with everybody. It's sort of, you can interpret it a few different ways. That's the whole idea. We're trying not to have it interpreted in different ways. So
here's another kind of a thing. Maybe is it worth figuring out some kind of a mechanism for logging those dates and times? Like I know, like when you receive an email, it says something with something on their application that could say where it is in process or something like that. So people would kind of see, okay, now it's time for this board chair to write a letter of recommendation. And then now it's been whatever amount of time now it goes to the board, just kind of so that everyone can kind of see where it is in process. I don't know if that's too cumbersome or impossible to do, but it might be kind of food for thought.
Well, if I can offer, I think that one of the things that slowed it down was that the Affordable Housing Trust didn't have a lot of meetings over the summer when the vacancy first got identified and announced. It was back at the beginning of the summer. I think it was even before the town meeting on June 20th. And we had the applicant pretty early after that, but the Affordable Housing Trust didn't meet until the end of July. And this is a new policy. I'm not sure most boards and committee chairs even knew of the new requirement for them to kind of interview the candidate, so to speak, and make a recommendation to the board. So it languished a little bit more for that. I do believe that we notified your board and the associated boards as soon as we got the applications in. We've been doing that as a matter of course, but just due to the summertime, the pandemic, a lot of different things, some of these things listed just because lack of meetings.
Right, and I know when I called Marnie to kind of discuss it, she wasn't aware that
She didn't know about it, right?
She didn't know about it. You know, she didn't understand that as the role of the chair and the change in policy. So I think that was the hiccup in this process.
Yeah, I mean, so we all met in July as a Affordable Housing Trust. Hunter was there. Hunter's application was complete, but she didn't know, we didn't know, right, that we had to write a letter of recommendation, and we didn't actually take a vote. We just talked with them, asked them questions, and
just said thank you and didn't really write an endorsement. So.
Right.
All right, so Jamie, then I guess we'll kind of pause it for now. And if anybody else too has any other improvements on it, please send them to Joe or myself, and then we'll distribute them for next time, and hopefully we'll have a good discussion and finalize it.
Yeah, Jamie, I think it sounds like a great project, because it certainly can be simplified maybe a bit and just made less verbose and more succinct. So good for you for taking this on.
All right, so we'll move on, if it's okay with everybody, to the next first reading we have is to amend the policy on emergency water bans. And Joe, if you could bring that up for us.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and do that right now. Let's see if I have it here. Trying to find it. Here, hold on, let me make sure I have it brought up. Close that one. So this is, I have it right. So this is your current policy on outdoor water use bylaw. Our DPW director had recommended at a previous meeting that just a simple phrase added to the end of number 5 definitions to meet the core functions of a business as approved by the town manager or his designee might be a way to kind of clean this up. Because you remember the question around whether or not to, or the question around amending this had to do with what kind of constitutes a core function of a business. It was kind of a gray area. We had the request from a resident as you were, we had a request from a resident who had paid a landscaper to start a new lawn for him as you were, and as you were putting in place the higher level of the water ban. So, but we're open to whatever changes you want. Tim's suggestion had just been to be what you did at the meeting, which was to designate myself to make the determination in that case, on a case-by-case basis. So,
I guess for me, that language that kind of you and Tim were thinking about, I think it would work for me. But I guess then I would ask you and Tim, what do you think? Like, give me kind of an over/under, an example that you think would not qualify and would qualify. Just so I can kind of get a feel of what the discretion would be.
So certainly would be a case-by-case basis, but we'd be looking at, if for instance, as happened with that home, the homeowner had a bunch of work done to their property, which required the grounds to be torn up, and then to put things back together, they had gone out of their way to re-landscape the property. That is kind of a core function of what what that landscaping business is. He'd need to be able to get that. He'd be stealing money if he agreed to take the job and then couldn't water the grass. If he just threw the grass down there, put the seed mix out there and then wasn't able to water it, it wouldn't come in. But I think that we would be trying to get people to not do that in the summertime when, what as I sound tongue-tied tonight, so I apologize for that. Tim did point out, for instance, that say somebody had to do water main work on their home, and the water main went right through the front of the yard. That would be, substantial disruption to something and tearing up and killing the lawn. They'd want to start all over again. Just because somebody's grass has turned brown, as it often does in the middle of the summertime, that's not starting new lawn. That lawn is established, it's set, it's just dormant because of a lack of water. Once it gets water in the fall and the spring, it'll come back green again. That's different.
I don't think so, Joe. I think it's the same thing. You can seed a new lawn. In fact, it's better to do it in the fall. I think there should be a demarcation between essential services of a company and core services, because it's a core service doesn't make it an essential service. And I do feel very strongly that just because somebody wants to do a new lawn, it should be allowed when we are all on severe water restrictions. I feel very strongly about that there should not be discretion about things like that. Unnecessary utilization of water at a time when everybody else is being asked to not use water except for essential purposes. And I don't think anybody's lawn is an essential purpose. I think that can wait until the fall. Yes, it's inconvenient and it's unsightly, but it's no more unsightly than my brown lawn.
Yeah,
is my feeling.
I mean, I agree and kind of disagree with Rosie, I guess. It's a tough one, because it's like, if you're trying to reseed a lawn in August, it is the worst time of the year to do it. And you should plan those projects for the springtime or the fall. But at the same time, I'm thinking of the contractor who is booked and that's the only time he can come. It's tough to figure out kind of a working solution. Like, I agree. I don't think the lawn is an essential thing in August to do. I think I would try to plan the project for the fall or the spring, where it's more convenient and we don't have a water ban going on. But at the same time, you're going to have every contractor in Hamilton working in the spring and fall, and that's going to affect their business a little bit.
But they can do other things in the summer. They can do the hardscapes. There are lots of things that they can do, and I am all for landscaping.
And then I guess maybe with it goes back to your discretion, Joe, if we put that language in there.
I'm not always going to be the town manager, right? So at some point, hopefully many years from now, I'm not town manager. You change that language, and it's going to be there for whoever becomes the town manager in the future. So I mean, that was a recommendation, as I said, that was recommended by Tim. I'm open to it if that's what the board felt like, or if you wanted to say on a case-by-case basis to be reviewed by the Board of Selectmen as the water commissioners. I mean, I'm not married to any particular language. I think that in the case that we just had, one of the mitigating factors was the fact that the contract and the plans had all been made substantially prior to the fact that prior to the time where we were in a water emergency. And the last thing to do, all the other work had been done. The last thing to do was to water the grass. So that was kind of a mitigating factor.
It makes sense on a project if you're doing a tree or something like that. You got to water your tree, but and the other kind of thing that makes sense to me is if we or someone else is replacing a water main in somebody's yard, I would hope that we would reseed their yard and water it for them, whether it was April or August. I would think that would be a core function of part of.
Well, okay, but you know what? That's true, and they should do it. But let's look at when they put when they replaced our water mains here on my street.
Mm-hmm.
They put some loam on, and they said we'll be back in the fall to plant seed.
Yeah, that's true.
And that was fine. You have to be reasonable about these situations. I personally like the idea of we evaluating it on a case-by-case basis as water commissioners, so then we can think about, are there extenuating circumstances, or is this really something but for convenience could wait until the fall or until our severe water shortage is over.
I'm fine with that. I think, 'cause I think there are situations where erosion or mud or things like that, you know, a rainy summer and you don't have anything on. I mean, I think those are things that we need to let our citizens come and talk to us about. So I think that I would agree with the case by case basis. I think that's fair.
I agree. I think, you know, erosion is dangerous to the, you know, to our ecology.
Yep.
So-
Right. And then I think, you know, kind of the erosion comment, like I'll kind of give you a scenario. Let's say someone redoes their landscaping and need the lawn seeded in August and the water ban's on and we decide to let them not do it. And then halfway through August, we get a lot of rain, tons of rain, but we still have a water ban on. I mean, we've had this situation before where we get dumped on with rain and we still have a water ban. And everyone goes, well, why do we still have the water ban? Well, it's because the river hasn't risen to whatever level, but still now that person has to redo all that landscaping because of the erosion issues, because they don't have, you know, grassroots in the ground. And I want to avoid costing.
Well, maybe they could put like a cheesecloth or something over it to hold over until fall or when it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen that.
And then, you know, I guess then it comes back down to the case by case basis. If it's something that's on a hillside or something, we can review it.
Yeah. Or if it's near the Ipswich River on a hillside, you don't want any erosion.
Right. You don't want anything. You don't want any sediments going into the river or Miles River or wherever.
I think the first line of defense is they wait until it makes sense. And if they can't wait, then they come and ask us permission. And if it makes sense, we're going to be fair and reasonable. And I think people have to ask the question. They think about it 2 or 3 times before they just, you know, hire somebody. They sort of say, well, I got to go in front of town meeting, so I'm going to think about it and be thoughtful and do the right thing. Right. So I'm okay case by case.
Jamie?
Is the discretionary decision just about erosion?
No, it's case by case on anything. I think we're just talking about an example.
Right, exactly.
That was just an example I kind of gave.
Yeah. So if you want, I can redraft this to say to meet the core functions of a business as determined on a case by case basis by the water commissioners.
I think essential is a word because
Instead of
core
core,
doesn't make it
essential?
essential.
How
Essential.
about both core and
Yeah. Essential and core. Yep. Or I think that's okay.
Joe, I didn't read I don't know if that was in our packet. I thought.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. I didn't see it.
I
It's
didn't.
not there.
It was. It wasn't. I thought it was sent to you today as an addition to the.
Maybe today, but
as an addition to the packet. It came late.
So my question is, what about? And it maybe it's already in there. Maybe it's captured more. What about like pools, filling up pools? Is that in our water ban somewhere?
Don't they bring in trucks for that now?
No, not always. So
not always.
Maybe they.
If someone's pool is 2 feet low because of evaporation, they're filling it with their hose, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I know this summer there was a big run on, you know, little above ground pools and stuff. Everybody was buying them. So that's probably a lot of water use as well.
I don't want to tell people not to do it on something like we had. I'm just saying, I'm not saying not to do. I'm just asking if we address it anywhere. So I'm not sure I'm against it because sometimes it's important to have something for the kids to do. But I just want to know if it's in our policy somewhere.
I don't think that there's anything in the policy about.
There's nothing about pools.
So
should there be?
Well, I mean, I think a water ban. I mean, a pool would be a restricted use. I think if you put it in there as a potential to be overridden, I think you're going to invite people to want to come in and override it. I think you're better off leaving a pool that's not filled when you go into a water ban. Probably shouldn't be filled.
Yeah. Maybe kiddie pools.
Yeah.
We don't want the kids to not have a kiddie pool.
Yeah, but I don't think kiddie pools is going to be as large of a use of the water, and I don't envision the time when the police are going to be riding around checking people to see if they're filling up kiddie pools in their backyard. I think it's probably going to be okay. We're probably not going to have that much of an issue with that. But you know, the lawns really gets to people because, as Rosie said, most people in town, when they see a water ban, they do the right thing. They stop watering their grass, and then they turn around, they look in their neighbors out there watering on their lawn, or a neighbor is getting a bunch of landscaping work done, and it makes them feel like things are inequitable. So,
yeah.
I'm up for that. Like we've kind of discussed with the discretion. on a case by case, because then we can really, like, we're kind of given all these what ifs, but I think we kind of need to see the what ifs before we make the decision on them.
Right. Yeah.
Jamie, did you have something else to add? I can see your wheels turning.
Yeah, so I guess so Rosemary keeps indicating she wants the word essential in there and under the core businesses. And I guess I just maybe I feel like I'm in law school or whatever here, but is if we put essential into that, I mean, does that mean myopia can't water their golf course, or
They have their own water source. They have the pond.
They're grandfathered and they can do what they like with the state.
They have a well on their property that comes out of the Miles River.
Okay, so and as you all know, I've only been on the board for a little bit, but I thought when we had this discussion a month ago that even people with wells are subject to the water ban, but just myopia is grandfathered in or whatever. Is that the?
Yeah, they have a special permit with the state.
Okay, all right.
Off from the river, so they're kind
just
of
curious.
Yeah, they're unfortunately, but fortunately for them, excluded from us in that manner.
Okay.
So that's a good question. That's a good.
I'm fine with the word essential. I just.
No, what you said makes sense. It's just in particular, myopia. It's a unique situation.
Yeah. Okay. That was my only question.
So and the purpose of this policy is to allow businesses in town who are trying to stay in business to be able to do the things that are going to help their business stay viable, right? So a core part of their business would be to plant lawns, but is that essential right now? So that's I think the distinction in my mind. And you just going forward, you just learn to plan around water bans and droughts and things like that. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So does anybody want to make a motion with amended language, or do we want to wait till second reading? Anybody want to chime in?
I'd like to read it one more time.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I think we're beyond it this almost right this year. So one more reading is not going to kill us, right? So if we can just circulate it out, we'll vote on it next meeting.
Yeah, I'd be happy to maybe redline some language and send it back to you, Sean, or to.
Yeah, so let's do kind of the
Joe.
previous scenario with the other document, and you can redline and make some changes, send it to Joe or I.
Okay.
And also, this may also, because it's dealing with us as water commissioners in a bylaw, it may be a town meeting thing. We'll have to check with KP Law. Okay. So we'll see whether we can approve it and move it to a town meeting warrant item, or whether we can just approve it and have the language changed.
Okay.
And Joe, I'm assuming Tim Olson reviewed this, or does he need to?
Oh, he doesn't need to. As I said, he had originally suggested that it be the town manager or designee. You guys, and I think I agree with you, are kind of shifting towards it being the water commissioners reviewing it on a case by case basis. I think that makes a lot of sense. I do think that Sean's right. It's likely gonna be something that we'll want to take through KP Law and see if we have to put this on the warrant for the annual town meeting. I think that it's a bylaw. A change to the bylaw probably needs to be done by the town meeting. So we're gonna probably pursue that.
So it's not just a policy, it's a bylaw.
No, right.
When we talked about it, we thought it was a policy. Everybody referred to it as a policy. When I pulled it up today, it was actually water use bylaw. It's chapter 25 of the town's bylaws. So
okay, there we go.
All right, so up next we have close a special town meeting warrant to new articles. So if anybody wants to make a motion in a second, we can then discuss.
I make a motion that we close the warrant for any new articles.
Second.
Town meeting.
All right, discussion. Joe, do you want to add anything in here?
No, I'm trying to pull up the last, there's nothing that we need to add in. But I want to pull up the list so you can see all the lists. There have been some things since the last time we reviewed it. If you just give me 1 second, I thought I had it up here. For some reason, I don't.
thought we were gonna have the, I'm looking at your list, right? And it says.
Yeah, it's in the
second
packet.
draft.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we had to deal with the, trash and recycling and composting. Is that not? I thought we agreed to take that.
The way you folks had left it with the proponent was that you'd either introduce it or he could choose to bring it up at a special town meeting. As it currently stands, he's happy with the fact that you haven't instituted every other week again, and is not asked to put it on the warrant as an article. So do you want me to add it in here right now as a placeholder, and we can go back to the proponent and check and see what he wants to do?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we abide by what we agreed to. So as long as we're clear on that.
I think that's a good point, Bill. I think let's put it in as a placeholder. And because I can't remember if we've discussed it or I brought it up as a board, but we talked about the composting, right?
Yeah.
Fairly recently. And that kind of satiated the bringers of that citizens petition. So if we did the mandatory composting and stuff like that, he was okay with all that kind of changing and staying. So I think that's up for a little more discussion with the bringer of that petition. And we did have another petition or potential petition just late today, like 11th hour kind of stuff on our Board of Health. I don't know how our Board of Health meeting is going or when, but there was a talk about a possible citizens petition to supersede the Board of Health's matrix for the COVID cases and the closing of schools. But there's been nothing submitted. It was just a talk of it today. I think, emails at about 5 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, Joe, I think KP Law is going to weigh in because it's also going to supersede state statute, which I don't know, you can pass a bylaw that supersedes statute.
Right.
So.
I think the same is, I'm going to say, kind of lump both of these citizens petitions into the same, that the trash recommendation with the citizen petition and the petition that isn't a petition yet are both most likely just advisory. I know the trash one is just advisory. It's as the Board of Selectmen, our ultimate decision on that. And I think it's the same with, not our decision, but the state's numbers and regulations that would supersede anything that happened at town meeting with the petition that isn't a petition yet, I guess, if that makes sense.
Can I provide a little background on what I did speak to town council today after the email I sent to you. A citizen had contacted the town clerk's office to determine how to get a citizen's petition on to the special town meeting warrant. They were provided with the necessary petition forms, and it instructed that they would need to acquire 100 signatures because for special town meeting, the threshold is much higher. And I then checked with town council because it has been advertised that you were going to close the warrant at this meeting. You can do so tonight, and you are not obligated. If that citizen's petition does come in after the close of business today, you're not obligated to put it on the special town meeting warrant. You can choose to if you like, or you can let it go to the fall town meeting, the annual town meeting, which will now be May 1st, 2021. State law does require you to place a citizen's petition on a town meeting warrant, but it doesn't say that it has to be the next one after the petition comes in, depending on where you are in the process of organizing your warrant. So if you close the warrant to new articles tonight, it will be effectively closed unless you choose to reopen it.
Yeah, my 2 cents is that we don't include it. I have no problem including it once it's come to us, but we don't have anything yet. We're just going on I don't want to say it's hearsay, but I think they're working on it. But I don't feel comfortable including it tonight at this late hour. Plus, we have a whole guide and timeline for citizens petition submittals, and we are in the 11th hour here. As we say, we're closing the warrant tonight. And,
I agree with that.
Right. If they bring it to us tomorrow, we can say, yes, we'll put it on the warrant, but it won't be the fall town meeting warrant. It will be the spring town meeting warrant, which unfortunately it counteracts what they're trying to do, I think. But
the town council did have a similar to opinion as expressed by Mr. Olson. Without seeing the actual wording of the proposed citizens petition, he didn't want to say definitively, but he did say that, state law gives great authority to local boards of health to determine rules for the public health, safety, and welfare of their communities. those cannot be overridden, in general, cannot be overridden by a vote of the town meeting. So just like the trash, the decision to make to create a trash program in town is solely with the Board of Selectmen, and that cannot be amended by town meeting. The decision about public health matters rests with the local Board of Health and cannot be amended by the town meeting either. So,
right, and to kind of piggyback on Joe's comments from KP Law is many of you, if not all of you, know we've had a kind of a sordid history with citizens petitions in the last handful of years where they've been submitted, and then because of problems with language or working on language, it's a pretty wieldy process to get the language to what actually will work or be able to be voted on. So without knowing any of this right now, I don't think as a board we can include it.
Yep, I think that sounds quite reasonable, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I think on a related note is, we talked about it on Saturday, but I think our restructuring of I think it's more important for citizens to know that we think it's important to really look at our health department. So we are thinking about a restructuring. So that's going to be our goal over the next year, is to look at how that's structured and see if we can make some improvements on it. So it'll be a topic for a future meeting. Yeah. Laserfiche, Joe hasn't, I don't know if this is not a final draft, but Laserfiche has it. You have an S in there. Take that S out of there.
Sorry about that.
It's F-I-C-H-E.
That is one of two newer that weren't necessarily here the last time we talked about these potential articles. I think was back at an August Board of Selectmen meeting. We have that. We've added a request for $5,600 to help with a DPW retirement that will be happening. That's been recently announced, and then the town clerk, I think we had noted the town clerk was likely going to be asking for some additional money to help fund some new election requirements and staffing, et cetera. So it's about $15,000. I did talk to Corinne today. She's kind of finalizing it. That might go up a little bit, but she didn't have the final number yet today. And I do think that through the conversations we've had both with you and the FinCom, that once we have some clarity from the Capcom, one of the two water projects may get pushed off of this special town meeting and pushed out to another date. So the CPC item in here should actually read that the CPC requests. I'll change that now. Initially we only had the $3 million request for town hall building, but we'll change this to a CPC article, CPC requests for town hall and others. It may be as many as 3. It certainly looks like there'll be at least 2 requests here. So,
yeah, there'll be it's the Affordable Housing Trust and Town Hall. Most likely there'll be the church as well.
So, is there questions? Does anybody want anything else? Does anybody want me to try to take anything off?
You just read it over here.
Yep.
So.
Go ahead, Jim. You're going to say something?
Yeah, this is a pretty straightforward question. So we close the warrant now. We can take things off after this, right?
Correct. So what basically tonight is, and people kind of get confused sometimes, is these are, I'm going to call them all placeholders at the moment. We know that most of these are going to move to a warrant article, but all the language isn't finalized. We're just kind of closing a warrant that these will be the items on the warrant, and then we'll finalize language and numbers, and that kind of goes along in the process over the next month or so before town meeting. Did that answer the question, kind of? I think.
Yeah. So we won't be able to add, but we could take off.
Yes, no, kind of. I guess if something that comes up that's really hot button thing that we all kind of agree to, we can agree to open the warrant again and add an item to it, and then close the warrant again, typically at that meeting or the next meeting. As long as we get that done before we go to print, we're okay.
Okay, got it.
So yes, no.
Got it.
So I think that we've tried over the last couple of the last year and a half, we've tried to do this part of the process a little earlier to try to help the FinCom review and the setting of the language and everything else to make it go a little more smoothly. It gives us a better chance of getting a warrant and FinCom book of recommendations complete with all the votes for all the warrant articles in if we close the warrant a little earlier. and then that we can get that all put together in time to go to the printer. So.
Right. And then there's times too, Jamie, where you're probably aware that like the citizens petition last time around, we voted to take no action on it. So we do every once in a while items like that something changes with it. And then we just vote to take no action on it when we get to town meeting.
Yeah.
Anybody have any input or changes, or are we okay with all these items?
I'm fine.
That's okay.
So did we make a motion and second it already?
I think I did.
I think we did, yeah.
Okay, so then I'll call the vote on it. All those that approve the final draft of the warrant for closing tonight, we'll start with Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill?
I think he's muted.
William Olson, aye.
Darcy?
Darcy Dale, aye.
Jamie?
Jamie Knutson, aye.
And myself, Sean Farrell, aye. All right. Up next, forgive me, I lost my desktop here for a second.
Last item on the agenda.
Human Rights Committee, correct?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just kind of finding the agenda. So up last but not least, we have the establishment of a Hamilton Human Rights Commission. First reading, that was in your packets. There's been, just as kind of background, I'm sure Joe will fill you in, and I see Anna's on the call as well.
As is Chief.
As is Chief Stevens. Yep.
Yeah.
So we've kind of had I've kind of been watching, I guess, some kind of a little bit of back and forth about some of the language in the document. And I'll let Joe and Anna and Chief chime in if they want to and kind of talk about the language. But tonight we're really kind of just looking at it. And I think some of the changes that were discussed between some of the people in emails over last week, I think are good changes. And I think basically they'll kind of state the case why they want to change some of them. If we have anything that we've looked at that we think we want to add or change, go ahead and let me know. And we'll do basically like we've done in the previous first readings. Everyone kind of funnel through myself or Joe with some of these changes, and then we'll bring them back to the board at the next time. So Joe, you want to introduce it?
I'm trying to bring it up here. I don't know why it's not coming up in my thing. Do you want the one that, I did start to make notes to myself on one, so I have one that's kind of quote unquote redline, but that's not.
You got one that's kind of marked up. Why don't we start with that one?
You want that one?
Yeah, why not?
Because nobody else has seen it except for you and I think. So
that's okay.
But it is redlined, so you can see the old language as well as.
We certainly can. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Share screen. Why won't this find it?
Yeah, we got something.
It's
we had something.
It's not the right thing. Hold on. 1 second.
Sean?
Yeah.
Well, he's bringing it up. Do you want me to add a little historical context to where this came from? Would that be helpful or
why not? Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, thank you to the whole committee for hearing this and sort of taking to letting it take off. So for context, I think as everyone knows, it's been a really unprecedented summer in terms of racial relations and awareness, social justice issues. So that affected our community pretty profoundly. So following the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, there was a march organized on June 2nd, and it was actually sort of a triumph in a number of ways. And I have to give major credit to the Hamilton Police Department, who's been incredibly supportive, Chief Stevens from the beginning. So from that event, there was sort of this upsurge of community interest and concern about what are we as a community doing in regard to human rights protection. So from that, a group of citizens formed a coalition. I am, for the moment, serving as the sort of fearless leader of said coalition. We're in the process of establishing a 501c3, which is great. And we're doing a lot of educational events and community building. We have several subcommittees. But the one part of a human rights commission that we cannot do is something that actually has a municipal component. And this is a really great opportunity for our community to not only sort of have a citizen side of a human rights campaign, but also to really look at the town side, the municipal side, in an unusual way. So I approached Joe and Sean and Chief Stevens and sort of our leadership team about saying, look, is this an opportunity for the town of Hamilton and also the town of Wenham, which is going on in a parallel track, to not only sort of support the work of the Citizens Coalition, but to actually create a municipal body that has real substance to it, that would become something of a portal for resolution, so that if citizens have concerns about something going on with the government, if citizens have concerns with something going on with businesses, neighbor disputes, but also especially anything going on with policing. And one of the things that came out of the conversations is that as much as we like to think everything is great in Hamilton and Wenham, that reality just doesn't hold up. And there are human rights issues happening right in our very midst. And so in those conversations, sort of talked to Joe and Sean and the chief about what we could do about that. And this working document is sort of the output of that. So it sort of started with the citizens, it's come to the town. And from our perspective, speaking on behalf of the coalition, it's a great opportunity for our municipality to really chart some new territory in a really amazing, progressive way. It's also a great opportunity for the chief to showcase the good work that our police department actually is doing. I think right now there's a lot of animosity between citizens and police, and the reality is our department has done a lot of great work, and this is a way to sort of celebrate that and recognize it. But also, if there are issues around policing, and we have heard some sort of heartbreaking stories in the community, this is a path to resolve those in a sort of good community building way. So from our perspective as a citizens group, it's a really important, valuable next step to sort of outwardly show to the region that Hamilton is a community that values human rights and has a really solid partnership between its residents and its police and its municipality. So that's sort of the backstory. I'll let Joe or Chief Stevens pick it up from there, sort of your thoughts about where we are and why we're going this direction. So thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just chime in just for a second. And thank you for allowing me to be part of this. And thank you, Anna, for your kind words. I think we all can agree that equality for all is very important, not just in Hamilton, but for all over. I mean, look at our country right now and look at the odds that we're at and people that are getting hurt and so forth and so on. I think that we have a duty to protect and listen to our constituents in our town. And you know, I've been talking with Anna back and forth. We've talked with Joe, and I know, Sean, you were part of a meeting that we were on. I've read the first draft that came out. I'm behind this 100%. I think it's important for our citizens in our town to be heard. And if this gives our citizens another outlet to be heard, and we as town government or part of town government should be listening to our citizens. And it's also another tool, if you read the way it's written, it's also another tool for you as select people to hear what's going on. So for me, I see this as it's another set of ears. If there's something going on with any form of our town government, I think we owe it to the townspeople to listen to what the problems are. And can we address it? Is it within our control to address it? So I'm really behind this. I support Anna, and Anna's got a lot of energy, and she's been behind. She started with this, and she hasn't let it go. So hats off to her. If there's anything I can do to either publicly or privately push this along, I really would like to see this happen. I think it's very important for us. And people look at Hamilton and say, well, what goes on in Hamilton? Well, I want to know what goes on in Hamilton. And if this is an avenue for me to know, or for us collectively to know, and we can address it, I think it's a home run. I think this is a good forward step. And I know myself and Joe have had conversations about this, and I know he agrees with that. I think this is a good thing for our town. I really do.
Thanks, Chief.
If I could just add to that, I think that, you know, I've had a lot of conversations going back to June with a lot of my peers in other towns around the North Shore and around the state. At some level, all of us locally are kind of dealing with what we're seeing happen nationally. And a lot of my peers, I think, would be jealous to be in the shoes that I'm in. And I'm very grateful that as this conversation started to evolve, our police jumped right in and didn't make it an us versus them thing. This has been a kind of a unified approach to trying to hear everybody in the community. The real unfortunate part about human rights violations is it often just doesn't get discussed. It gets brought up to a certain point or to some people, but it doesn't ever really get vetted out or handled properly, addressed properly within the community. And we have an engaged police department that is happy to work with us to try to make sure that that happens going forward. As I look at kind of some of the things that have happened in other towns around the North Shore, I'd love to see us kind of strike a different path to make sure that we kind of avoid some of the ugliness and bad press that other communities are getting for the way they are not embracing the issue and working to solve it within our own boundaries as much as we can. That's really the goal, is just to have everybody working together towards resolving these kinds of things. The document you have in front of you, even with the red lines, is just a draft. It was drafted by our town council at my request, based on working documents that are working in other communities around the state. But we are at this point where we'd like to have it fit our town. So Sean recommended that we put it on the agenda for first reading and get feedback over the next couple of weeks, amend it, edit it, bring it together to the point where you all feel like it really represents the goals of the community. And then you can vote on it, make it a Board of Selectmen policy, and establish this new committee. And I will say that Wenham is closely trying to follow our lead. I've had lengthy conversations with the town administrator there. He cribbed our draft. He's going to present it to his Board of Selectmen and try and get them to do the same process over there. But we are two different towns. We're, municipally, organizational wise, the way our processes, the way our structure, the way we govern is different. So we felt it best to have two different local commissions working together with the regional coalition of folks that came together, organically over Facebook and whatnot back in June and July. So I think that would be a good way to approach it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joe. And so what kind of tonight we can do is, if anybody on the board or on the line now has any comments, I'm welcome to take them and we can listen to them. And then also, I'd just like to kind of look at some of Joe's red lines after we have a little bit of discussion about it, because some of them I think are kind of basic. I'll just point one out now. Is it originally it was a Human Rights Committee, but now we think it'd be better calling it a commission instead of a committee, just because it seems a little bit more natural that way. And then in one of the sections of it, Joe's worked a little bit and added another. We kind of changed 9 and 8 and stuff like that, and maybe after we have a little bit of kind of commentary on it, we can go to that. And Joe, maybe you can explain what the reasoning was to add that little bit into it. So I guess I'll kind of open the floor. If anybody wants to say this sounds great, or this doesn't sound great, or, any other comments on it. I know we've got it for first reading, but
I think
if you feel comfortable adding something, go for it.
I think it's great. I think it's inclusive and outlet, and, I think it's great. I always just want to lead from it, learn from previous places. So I just want to make sure that anybody else who's done this in any other towns, if they sort of missed something that's had to go in the wrong direction, we want to make sure it stays in the right direction for the right reasons. So I'd be interested to hear what other towns that have it, and what not just look at their bylaws, but maybe talk to someone about how it's gone and experiences. The 11 seems like a lot. So I know to have 11 people on a committee seems like, I don't know. I understand we're trying to be inclusive. So that's the purpose of the committee, but 11 seems like a lot. So I'm not sure what committees we have that have our commissions have 11 people on it. So I'd just be concerned that might be. So I want to hear about that, sort of the thought process of that. I like the idea of the student being part of it. I think procedurally it might be difficult because it's a 3-year term, it looks like, for a student. So that might be, you might want to make that like a student, maybe a 1-year term. So, but no, I think it's a good idea. I think there's just some little details we need to work out.
And to your point, Bill, sorry to interrupt, but and you can see the composition of it.
Okay, change.
11
okay.
Seemed a little bit wieldy, so it changed to 9.
That makes sense. Okay.
And then 7 to 5 for the appointed by the Board of Selectmen for the at-large members.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think a lot of other cities and towns use 11 because they're trying to be inclusive, and they generally want the commission to have representation from kind of all the various sectors that are possible. I think at a town our size, it's probably likely that we struggle to have a fully staffed commission at all times, even having 4 of them come from the town staff. So we sought to change that back a little bit and reduce it by 2.
And then the meet. Sorry, I didn't read the whole thing, but does it say how many meetings they need to have?
No, I mean, I think guys, with a lot of boards and committees, we leave them to determine their meeting schedule. It does have some requirement in here to report at least once or twice a year, or as the board selectmen requests, to provide reports and provide input to on various items that might be related to decisions that the board of selectmen may be making. But I think that likely to start, you probably want, the commission would probably meet a couple times in each in the first couple months, but could probably eventually get onto a regular cadence or schedule of meetings, maybe once a month or something.
I wouldn't be against stating that in here, something about once a month or per the direction of the board of selectmen. But I think that some of these committees or commissions, starting to sometimes lose momentum. So if we had some regular, I don't know, I would have to look at other ones, but I wouldn't be against something like that might put a meeting sort of schedule on there, or goal.
Yep.
Those are my
Bill,
initial comments.
Bill, can I speak to one of those for just a second?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes.
So before we sort of got this started, we did look to a lot of other municipalities. What's interesting is that this is sort of unusual for small towns to do it, which is really cool for us in some ways. We actually tried to find an example that we could borrow and kind of give to Joe, and then town council sort of work this up. But what you're talking about is often specified in this document. I've seen some of them that are quarterly meetings. I've seen some of them that are less frequent, some are more. I think some of it depends on the charge of the group. So what's interesting about the way we're framing this is, in our community, we're sort of lucky that we have this this harnessing of citizens' power. Sometimes a human rights commission is both sort of the education advocacy component and also this municipal kind of portal to complaint. So in this case, it's helpful to narrow the focus of the town commission a little bit, because you don't have to do double duty. So for example, in Beverly, their human rights commission really has to do everything because there isn't as much of an active citizens group, if that makes sense. So the focus is broader, but other municipalities, I think Arlington is a good example, is bigger. Theirs is actually very narrow, and not only do they sort of focus on municipal issues, but they actually do, where we've written point 10, don't really adjudicate or render decisions. There actually are some commissions that do render decisions, which felt like perhaps a step too far in some ways. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, and I know that town council has sort of worked with what's the right fit for us, because what Beverly does isn't quite right. Arlington is much different. Like Hamilton and Wenham are in a different place in terms of what we need and a different size. So some of what you're seeing in terms of the red is coming from looking at other municipalities and saying like, well, that doesn't really fit. We don't need that. And maybe we don't want to do that, so on and so forth. So I don't know if that helps or not, sort of address some of that.
No, thank you. Any comments from Jamie, Rosie, or Darcy?
I haven't had a chance to read it or digest anything, but in the concept, I like it. I just want to make sure that we're not opening a can of worms or diluting any power of the people. So I do want to go over it carefully and see if I can add anything or if I have any questions. But yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and so far I like that it's a very inclusive document. I like that very much. So I'm definitely very excited to read it and to give any feedback, but I think it's very positive.
Jamie, do you have anything to add?
I'll take a hodgepodge of what's already been said. With Chief Stevens, I'm behind it 100%, and yeah, like it very much. I guess, yeah, and I see a real, need for it in the town. I think, something like this can actually be, some people think, to Darcy's comment that we want to make sure it doesn't open a can of worms, and some people could see this as somewhat of a divisive thing, but I really think it can be a very important thing towards promoting a more cohesive community.
Right, and it includes every possible demographic. I think that's what I like about it. It truly is very inclusive. And I know that there's some demographics in town that really don't feel heard. And this is an opportunity for them to have a platform. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think for me, the basis of this whole thing is it shows that we care.
Mm-hmm.
We're a caring community, right? So, we want what's best for the community, but we also want what's best for the people in our community. So I think this is a step in the right direction. So if there's no other comments from anybody, and Anna or Chief or Joe, we can send anything redline to myself or Joe, and then we can kind of digest it and talk about it. But I think this is a really good kind of jump off. And for me, reading through it, there's maybe some minor little changes, but I think overall it's a good document and a good starting point, and we'll kind of see what everybody has to add to it or change it.
Sounds good.
We got some homework to do this week, sounds like.
Got some homework.
Get the reading.
Can I mention one quick thing that maybe Joe can ask KP Law about? So if we have a student who's under 18, is this a commission that's
a good question.
And if they don't have legal, they're not the age of
right, if they're a minor.
And
I might the same issue with the 3 years, like what if they join as like
I would think the
junior,
student would have to be a year or a school year appointment.
But they also be a junior member, like a
right.
member.
Right.
A junior member, I think.
That's a great question, Jamie. And good point, Darcy. I'll talk to KP Law. Perhaps we don't designate them as a full voting member, but definitely create an outlet for a junior membership so that their voices can be heard in what the commission wants to do. But recognizing their kind of legal status, we may not be able to include them. I'll bet that out with KP Law.
How does the school committee usually has a student? I'm gonna air quotes on the school committee. Maybe Anna can clarify that, because they usually have a student that's on the school committee. But
I was actually just going to chime in that there is a student representative typically on the school committee. It's usually a senior, I believe. I think they're selected from within the high school itself. So, but that's when I was reading it, even initially, that I sort of almost de facto interpreted as a non-voting member, as an advisory member, because they don't technically have legal standing. But I think having that youth voice is really important. We actually within the coalition have an entire youth education subcommittee, and amazingly, it's being led by a 16-year-old member. I'll give her a personal shout out because she's amazing, but Olivia Suleiman is the head of our youth education subcommittee. She's in fact a high school student.
She's right there.
She's incredible. I don't know if she wants to represent herself, because honestly, she could run the world. So I think it would be a real disservice to the youth. God, I feel old right now. The youth of our community to not include that perspective and voice. And a lot of these issues actually happen. Some of the conversations we've had within the coalition, some of the more heart-wrenching stories are actually happening, I would say, within, kids under age 22, teenagers. Some of the worst incidents of sort of being profiled and discriminated against are happening within youth. So I feel like if we really want to be reflective,
you need
the
that.
grown-ups can't talk over them all the time. I don't know, Olivia, do you want to say anything? You are right here.
I don't know. Well, I guess thank you for the shout out. I don't really know what to say, I guess, but I definitely think that there should be a student voice, especially like in the government side of things where students aren't able to be as represented. I live in Wenham, so I can't be on the Hamilton one, but I definitely think that it will be very important to have some student voice represented there.
Thanks, Olivia. No, I think we definitely need a student representation, and it's just in what capacity we can do it. And Joe, when you reach out to Tom at KP, let us know. We can put that in the language. I think it's an integral part to have youth included in it.
So I'll just ask this question, Sean. This is an advisory committee, right? Because the policy says that it's not going to have the ability to adjudicate. So if that's the case, then why couldn't we have a teenager on it? There's nothing binding
Yeah,
about it.
that's a good question. I mean, I guess we'll see what KP.
Yeah, I was
law
looking at the same thing. Like, what are you voting on other than what you're
not really
advising?
voting,
So, right.
Yeah.
Just bringing up issues to us.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
I think it'd be wonderful to have some
Yeah, I kind
images
of
on
agree. Sorry to interrupt, but I think that if the student can be a full voting member, I think they should be.
Yeah.
So,
that would be my advocacy, because we have some very capable young people, and
we
yeah,
need
I'm always impressed whenever I go to the high school to do
young
some event.
people.
The stuff these kids are doing. It's always amazing.
Yes.
Thank you for working on this and bringing that in front of us. So appreciate that.
Yeah,
Good
thank you,
idea.
Chief and Anna. Appreciate it.
Well, in the spirit of giving shout outs too, because that's, this having been I've been working in this sector pretty much my entire life. And, I wasn't sure what was going to happen after the summer, and the sense of both relief and pride and sort of elation that I think, if I can speak on behalf of our coalition, which is now over 400 members, to be able to bring something like this and have immediately both town managers say, yes, we want it, select board support, yes, we want it, and both police chiefs, we had a joint meeting with Hamilton and Wenham. Not one person has said anything nasty to push back. The support has been overwhelming. So, Hamilton and Wenham don't always have the best reputation in terms of some of these issues. And I think this is a real turning point for our community. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for your time, your leadership, your patience. Oftentimes people don't hear the good stuff, but I think this is a real victory. So I think everyone who's on this board, and Joe and the chief, should really take a little bit of credit for actually hearing it and moving forward with it. And procedurally, I'm sort of helping organize the citizen side for feedback. So we'll continue to offer that. And just thank you for being the kind of town that actually does care. Sean, you put that really well. We're a town that cares, and a document like this shows it. So thank you to everyone for your hard work.
We've always been a town that cares. We've always been that way.
Yeah, we have.
Yep.
So I guess if you have any edits or suggestions, please funnel them through myself or Joe, and then we'll circulate them back around.
Yep.
And we'll talk about it again. And Anna will let you know what the kind of cadence is on next meeting's agenda and what we've got. All right.
Thanks. Yep.
And Darcy, if
you're ready.
well, I'll pause 1 second. If anybody has any new business they want to add to the next agenda or suggest,
if I do, I'll let you know.
Or you can email me it too. Yeah. So, all right, Darcy, go ahead.
I make a motion that we adjourn this evening.
I'll second that.
All right, and a roll call vote. We'll start with Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Darcy, go ahead.
Oh, Darcy Dale, aye.
I jumped the gun on Rosie before she said aye, so I apologize. Jamie?
Jamie Knutson, aye.
Bill?
William Olson, aye.
Myself, Sean Farrell, aye. Thank you, everyone.
John, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did we do a roll call to open the meeting?
I believe we did.
I actually don't think we did.
I don't think we did either.
but we all chimed in pretty early on the.
What do you think, Joe? Procedurally.
I actually asked Mary Alice. Mary Alice, do you recall if does your notes show that they called it or not?
No, we didn't take an official roll call.
Can we do that like now?
So maybe have a motion to reflect that the Board of Selectmen approved opening the meeting at, I think you called it, Sean, at 6:34.
6:32. 6:32. Yeah, I thought so.
I make a motion confirming that when we call the opening meeting at 6:34, all selectmen were on.
We're present.
We're present, and can be verified through a confirming roll call now.
Second.
All right. Second. All right. So roll call. We'll start with Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, here.
Darcy.
Is that good?
Darcy Dale, here.
Jamie.
Jamie Knutson, aye. I approve the motion, and I was here.
Bill.
William Wilson, I approve the motion. I was here.
And Sean Farrell, I was here, and sorry about that, folks.
Do we have to have the meeting? We don't have to have the meeting over.
We got to rewind. I'll do the whole thing again.
Oh, no.
Good meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.